But you have a boat.
I do.
Yeah.
Wait.
That is awesome.
Trying to figure out how to take my background off.
I think it's under video settings.
Yeah, that's where I am. Okay.
And then background and filters. And then there should be a button that says none.
Are you ready,
We're going
Mayor?
up
I'm
to-
going to start the meeting.
I am. It is Tuesday, March 22nd at 8:30, and I'm calling this Finance and Economic Development Committee meeting to order. So I think we just still have the one item agenda. Is that correct? Can I get a motion to approve?
Move to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Then that motion unanimously carries. We have an agenda. And first up on our agenda is the Lacey Makerspace update. We're just talking about the Makerspace back in DC, trying to get some dollars from our federal government. Is this going to be an update about that?
Kind of another path forward. So Rick should be coming in hopefully here any minute.
We have a Economic and Development Council meeting tomorrow at Lacey Makerspace. Scheduled it there.
Is Rick?
You're on.
Hello.
Or Rick.
Sorry about that. I was a little over enthusiastic and I was over in the council chambers thinking this is the first week of hybrid. So,
I got confused about that too.
Well, thank you, council members and Mayor Ryder. Just want to kind of take this opportunity to provide a quick update of the Lacey Makerspace. We haven't had a chance to talk about it for some time, and then also talk about next steps as we work to realize the in purchasing the equipment underneath the EDA grant that we just received this last year, that what we need to do to be able to accommodate and physically locate that in the space. So I'm going to share my screen. I got a quick little couple sets of slides to talk through, and we'll get this going. So first I want to kind of talk about where the Makerspace has been and what we're currently doing in terms of activity. And so this is some quick information on some of the stats of the Makerspace. Going back to when it first opened, which was just a little bit prior to the pandemic, we had that fall, we had a strong membership drive. We had 120 members since the Makerspace has opened. And currently, though, we have about 67 active members. We kind of wanted to break it up and see what the effect of the pandemic had on the Makerspace. So we took a snapshot of opening through May 31st of 2001 last year. And at that time, we had 51 members. And of those 51 members, 13 are still active today. So we did have some effect on the pandemic being closed down, and that dynamic did occur. But as we started phasing out of the pandemic and moving forward, we did another push of programming classes, reprogramming activities, and as well as just general promotion of the use and benefit of the Makerspace. So since June 1st through March 14th, we have now 69 memberships. Our membership has grown since the May 31st date, and 54 of those memberships are still active. And then that's just a general breakdown of that. 21 of those members are female, 98 male, and we have 1 non-binary. So that just kind of shows you the mix of memberships. And we have people that are out residents in the community, as well as members or students of St. Martin's. So we have a real good mix of young and old and places where they come from. And I think this is another important thing for the council to to know and appreciate is the Lacey Makerspace has really become a regional hub beyond just the northern part of Thurston County. So we took a snapshot of where those members of the Makerspace reside in, the Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, of course, but we're pulling membership down from Tacoma, Tenino, Yelm, Roy, DuPont, as far as Kent, Shelton, Oakville, Aberdeen, and Puyallup. And that kind of gives it a sense of there's a regional presence that the makerspace is starting to develop. And a lot of it has to do with, it's the only makerspace around, I think the closest one to the north is Auburn, and I'm not sure where the closest one to the south is, if it's not down in maybe potentially Vancouver. And so again, this is something, a testament to what has been growing here in the city of Lacey with the Lacey Makerspace is, it is attracting people from far and wide. And just as a quick side note, I don't know if you recall, I just went blank on the name of the makerspace up in Tacoma that we talked to and consulted with. That particular makerspace has closed down to makers, and it's just a fabrication shop today. And one of the things too, as we are coming out of the pandemic, and as we received that $1 million grant from EDA to purchase equipment, I just want to also highlight that we have made our first purchase of equipment under the grant. We purchased just about $100,000 worth of equipment, and this is really more of a test of the system, because with the purchasing requirements of the grant, we have to purchase the equipment and seek reimbursement. So we're trying to get a sense of what that cash flow and timing is like, so that when we start making the bigger purchase of equipment, the more expensive stuff, that we know how we pattern the cash flow. So we are waiting to receive that first wave of equipment. They'll be able to go right into the existing space of the makerspace. We also are working with our workforce partners, workforce agencies, to explore other types of training programs to bring into the makerspace and use the makerspace as that training facility. So we're working with, talking to folks like Thurston Chamber Workforce, Pack Mountain, and we've also reached out to a couple of other trainers that can certify advanced manufacturing programs. A company called, or a nonprofit called AJAC, which is Aerospace Joint Apprenticeship Committee. They are located out of Renton, but they are looking to expand outside of aerospace industry certification programs for different types of advanced manufacturing techniques. So we are talking to them to try to figure out how we can create some partnerships to be able to create a certification programs that can be trained out of the makerspace at some point in the future. The other part of it too is there's a program on Joint Base Lewis McChord called Opportunity Next, and that is a purpose is trying to retrain active duty military personnel that are transitioning out of the military into some of the skilled workforce as well. And so that's part of that partnership with Thurston Workforce and AJAC as trying to create and design that program, what that would look like. Then the other thing that we had the opportunity of, and part of that too is how we look at those workforce programs, and we may be able to access federal workforce dollars to help pay for some of the operations of the makerspace in the future. So that's one of the, not only we're trying to create a better and more skilled workforce opportunity, but also how we can create other funding streams in to help support the operation of the makerspace in the future. We also, just a couple of weeks ago, I hosted a tour of the makerspace with Dr. Lisa Brown. She is the director of the Department of Commerce. Along with Cecilia Lovelace of St. Martin's University and Sean Moore of CBI and Michelle Pope, our director of the makerspace, toured Lisa Brown around, and mainly because, one, it was an opportunity. Commerce is looking at trying to create more programs such as the makerspace in other communities. And also with the recent state legislature, they passed a budget that included about $34.5 million for a small business innovation fund. Basically, funds that we could potentially tap into to help not only support the makerspace, but the development of new industry and small business in our community. And the Department of Commerce will be administering those funds in the next budget cycle. The other thing I want to highlight too is that we have a couple of new businesses that are coming out of the makerspace. The first one is Events by Genevieve. I just want to highlight these two businesses because they're more recent. Genevieve De La Cruz is graduated from St. Martin's University and she studied business there, got a degree in business. And she joined as a student member while at St. Martin's, but then as she graduated, she launched her wedding event planning business. And so what she does at the makerspace is she fabricates props and items for the wedding events, as well as she pays for the makerspace to fabricate items. So now she's a fully launched business, and she's not only used the benefit of the makerspace, but also the services and training programs that are provided by the EDC. Again, creating that spot where all those different resources can come together in one spot. And this next business is another pretty cool business that has launched in 2021. Bethany Hanna launched a business called Sophronia. And what she does is create custom design line of jewelry. You see in that picture that the earrings there, they repurpose wood from sawwood and create this custom jewelry. And the other kind of new cool thing about it is she puts a little tag on that back of the jewelry, and so somebody can take their phone and scan that tag and get a Spotify playlist or information about women history, those type of things. So it's kind of one of blending old and new technology. And so what she does at the makerspace is use a lot of the laser cutters and engravers as she cycles down that wood into the jewelry and creates another great business that's coming out of the makerspace. So that brings us on to next steps. And with the success we've had in the makerspace, the success of getting the grant for this advanced equipment, we are now looking at how do we expand the makerspace to accommodate not only a grant, but all these different types of programs and activities. As you've all been probably in this makerspace, you know, it's just under half of the existing Zavro Hall. The other half of Zavro Hall is occupied by St. Martin's Facilities Department. And in order for us to expand, we need to either expand in place or look for another location. So we've been working with St. Martin's University to look at what those options are. And they are looking at exploring the opportunity to relocate facilities somewhere else on campus so that the makerspace can expand into the entire footprint of Zavro Hall. Some of the plans and master plans we've looked at is shown on the screen now. The phase 1 area titled, this area carved out here, that's the existing space. Phase 2 is a space currently occupied by facilities. And then phase 3 expansion would be a 20-foot extension off the west end of Zavro Hall building. And so what we're looking at in this master planning is how do we program the various types of equipment, because again, we have woodworking equipment, we have laser engravers, we have 3D printers, we'll eventually have 5-axis CNC machining tools, water jets, vertical mills. So all these different types of equipment have different tolerances for dust and control, and as well as need space for working. And so how do we program this space so we separate that type of equipment, have it safe for the users, but also provide that space for classroom training as well as the electronic or digital labs. So this master plan footprint is breaking all that out. So in this phase 1 area is continue with a lot of the woodworking equipment, the tool crib, offices. And then as you go into the hallway into the phase 2 area, you'll start seeing the classroom that we set up as a multi-purpose room. You also have the electronics lab where you have the computer programming area and some of your more refined equipment, the 3D printers. And then in this area up in here would be more of your industrial metal type working, your lathes, metal lathes, those type of things, laser printers, laser cutter, excuse me. And then this phase 3 expansion where will be the bigger pieces of equipment that would be purchased last with the grant. The CNC mills, the lathes, the water jets, the vertical mills, those type of things. And one of the purposes of that is that's the last thing we're going to be purchased with the grant, but also too, that has to have reinforced concrete to be able to anchor that equipment to the floor. So that's kind of the breakdown of the expansion areas. So as we're master planning, we're trying to figure out how do we finance that. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. So I'm going to try to figure out how we finance that. And so it's been a collaborative effort with the committee, the executive committee of the makerspace, as well as St. Martin's and Thurston EDC. And we're looking at ways of raising funds. And so the total cost of that, all three phases for the tenant improvement would total about $1.2 million. Also, the cost to relocate facilities over to another part of campus will be about another $250,000. They're going to go into an existing building and have to remodel that existing building to accommodate. And so when we look at those phases, what do we need first? And of course, phase one is we need to bring in, we have adequate power to the building, but we need to wire the building for adequate power to accommodate that equipment. So that phase one is primarily to bring in electrical systems, as well as compressed air systems and mechanical equipment for air quality control. And that's all designed to be able to add on to as we go through the phases. And then phase two, of course, would be once facilities vacate, we would move into there and provide the TI. So that first phase would be about $150,000 the estimate. And phase two would be just over $400,000 as an estimate. And then phase three is the bigger cost of just under $700,000. So our plan is just to focus on phase one and two. And as facilities leave, we would remodel the existing footprint, figure out how we can raise dollars there. And then with phase three, that'd be a 2-year horizon where we continue to focus on other funds, whether it be from the lobbying at the federal level or the state level to bring in other capital dollars for that final phase. So where we are in funding strategy at this point is the St. Martin's team just made a presentation last Thursday to the Cheney Foundation for a $100,000 grant for phase one. And we found out Friday that the Cheney Foundation awarded that grant. So we already have acquired $100,000 from the Cheney Foundation up in Tacoma for this. St. Martin's is already also with some key stakeholders of St. Martin's University. Sounds like that they've raised 150 of the $250,000 necessary for movement of facilities. And so we're still looking at how we get some additional dollars to build into the finish phase one and full and complete phase two, which leaves us to about $457,000. And so one of the things we wanted to bring this up to the council is this might be a good opportunity to use some of the strategic reserve funds in order to accomplish that. And so we were working with Scott and we're trying to figure out what may be the best approach. And before I get to that, I guess I've got to remind the committee as well as everybody else I've talked to is we have two funding challenges. We have the capital for expansion to create the space, but we also have the ongoing operational needs too. And so trying to figure out how we balance those two, because we don't want to put a lot of capital necessarily into the space, and then we don't have the funds to operate going into 2023. So we're kind of looking at a kind of a hybrid approach of funding models. Maybe we can use a portion of our strategic reserve funds to contribute maybe up to $300,000 to the capital cost of renovation, and then another up to $200,000 for 2023 operations to keep the facility going, and then fundraise from the community the remaining portion of those dollars to complete phase two tenant improvements. And then going forward over the next couple of years, continue to lobby for state and federal dollars to finish this up as we kind of create that synergy of phase one and two with the classrooms and trainings and show that value not only to the entrepreneurial and hobbyists in the community, but also workforce skill development and the manufacturer will be able to create more connections within not only the business community, but at the state level and federal level as a resource for employment. So with that, that's a quick overview. And really today is just to kind of bring this to the Finance and Economic Development Committee as the first step to kind of talk about the history, talk about where we are, the scenario and going forward. And happy to get any thoughts or questions or inquiries from the council members.
Councilmember Greenstein.
So curiosity, Rick, at full completion. So when phase three is done and it's, fully operational, the whole facility, what percentage of the ongoing expense do you think it will pay for itself, between fees and, people using the equipment and all the different things that are, going to generate some revenue? Do you anticipate it being self-sufficient at some point, or what would your thoughts be?
It won't be so sufficient in terms of just membership fees. We know that is a fact. So we're going to have to figure out other funding streams to come in other than the city of Lacey, or, we do want to get this off on its own. So that's where we're exploring the workforce dollars, and being a training center will help with, because then you're paying for not only space rental potentially, but also the trainers themselves. And that's staffing is always the highest cost. Then also too, as it grows on St. Martin's campus and stays on St. Martin's campus, it can be also that general resource to all St. Martin students. So there could be some funding streams in from St. Martin's. We've talked about just general sense of, almost like as long as we have the guarantee it's open to the public, in perpetuity, you kind of have this 50% facing the outside community and 50% facing internal campus, and it kind of creates a mutual partnership there. And so as we expand and get this higher cutting edge equipment, the larger equipment, I think it also will be a much valuable resource to our existing business owners, those manufacturers out in our community. And then we also will continue to bring them in and try to create evolve our committee and our advisory group to be more of those funders and donors in the community that will continually support the operation as they see the value of it and the equipment that's in there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there's a lot of opportunities on the workforce development side of things. First of all, with the new Bill Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Legislation Act, there is a lot of workforce development dollars in there, which is really important. And I'm glad that the feds recognize that you can't just put a bunch of dollars out there to improve your roads, bridges, and all this other stuff, and you don't have the workforce to do it. And so there is dollars in there on a grant basis for workforce development. And then the other thing I've been, just talking to the public businesses in town, they're all struggling to get skilled labor as well. So Capital Heating and Cooling, it'd be nice to work a program with them, maybe SPSCC in the makerspace, or maybe straight with makerspace. So, they go through a program and then they have the certification based on what the skills the local businesses need from their employees. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, out there, which is why, this community has always supported the makerspace, and the city Lacey's obviously has, been very supportive as well. So that
was my point. That was kind of my point. Is I'm all for. I'm fully supportive of the makerspace. I think it's great, and I would support the capital money, and I'd support some ongoing, funding to keep it operating. But I would like to see it at some point come off the dime of the city and be self-supporting. And I think it can. I think the workforce development side is where that would happen, primarily. So I think this is great. And
there's also, I forgot to mention too, a key partner and representing on our committee is South Beach Town Community College. Mm-hmm. And as we're coming out of the COVID, I just saw Doug Mall the other day, who is a board of trustee at the community college. I asked him about where they're still holding meetings at the 6th Avenue campus, which they are. And I asked if I could come in and give an update and presentation with them to get them re-engaged up at the higher level, because our board member is their professor or teacher of the advanced manufacturing core programs. But I need to connect with Dr. Stokes again and those and bring them back in. And then it's very similar. There's a model in Tumwater with the Craft Brewery District and that partnership and those programs that there could be that same relationship, not only with St. Martin's, but also with the community college, with the makerspace.
Deputy Mayor.
Hey, Rick, I was happy to hear that the machinist supplied $100,000. That was pretty cool. And I was wondering, was it the machinist union, or was it the machinist collective? How'd that work out?
No, this is the Cheney Foundation.
Okay.
It's and they're a foundation that supports South Sound higher ed and economic initiatives and those type of things out of Tacoma.
Okay, so I must have heard you wrong. So my question was, I don't know if this would be attractive to some of the local unions, and I think they they might be interested, but I see that you're going to be putting in some stuff that, you know, machinists would use, some carpentry stuff. And so it might be helpful to get those guys engaged. They might even consult at some level or another. I don't really know. But when I was looking at the membership pricing, do you guys, does a Lacey Makerspace offer any kind of a corporate membership situation in any way? Are there some people that might be interested in something like that?
It's not necessarily on the website, but if there is a corporate, a business that wants to bring in employees or train new employees, we will work with them on a membership amount that's probably going to be reduced because of the volume. And a good example of that is the membership we worked out with the Nisqually tribe with their tarot program. They had 10 tribal members in their tarot program, which stands for Tribal Economic Recovery Office. And we had 12 individuals in that program, and we worked out an arrangement that as a lump sum guarantee upfront cost, we would provide that access to them at a reduced rate. I can't remember what the numbers were that we ended up on the membership rate, but that is something too that we offer, and to entice or to promote it to our corporate presence, that they have the opportunity to train their employees.
Gotcha. And then my last question was, in terms of membership, and I know membership dollars aren't going to be the thing that, you know, really, you know, makes this thing become self-sustaining. You know, it's kind of like, you know, I know the rack is one of those things where we thought, like, you know, hey, one day, you know, and it becomes, you know, this thing. But is there, like, once we expand, once, you know, phases 2 and 3 become a thing, is it possible that, you know, I know that we'll increase membership. Is there a maximum to the amount of members that there can be, or is it like the gym where we just keep selling it until, you know, we fill it up? And I'm just kind of wondering.
There has been reference to the gym model, but of course the gym model is they want to sell a bunch of memberships and hope that, you know, 60% don't show up after a while, and there's a capacity. We want all of our memberships to be actually been users, because that helps the broader community. So there's ultimately a capacity, but it's also then about scheduling, because people aren't there for 8 hours a day necessarily. They're coming in and doing projects. So there's going to be times where there's going to be open access to anybody that wants to come in. There are times for appointment only, and then there are times for classes. But as we expand the space and have more area to work within, we will have more capacity to hold more events at the same time. And that training program, multi-purpose room, will work great, because that's another place. Not only do we have a place for classroom space for training, but also we can hold, you know, small events for either businesses out there that want to learn more, or even fundraising events there as well, to help promote and continue to raise funds for the makerspace. And I think when talking about the machinists, Deputy Mayor Miller, is I made reference to connecting with a company called AJAC out of Renton. They're coming in as a nonprofit workforce agency that provides training and certification courses for advanced manufacturing. And so those are the machinists that we're trying to bring in to help with Thurston Chamber Workforce to develop a curriculum. But we still got to engage with Thurston Workforce and figure out how we set that up, and if they can support this effort of expansion as well.
Gotcha.
So I would want to bring up an idea that I heard at an NLC conference. It's surprising more and more cities are offering free tuition for technical college, community colleges for their people who reside in their city. And they're doing it at a remarkably inexpensive cost, because there are programs out there to help with tuition. And actually the tuition side of things is, especially for community college and technical colleges, is not a big expense. And so this is obviously spurring off of economic development, right? And there's such a huge need to increase the people going into the trades, that they're seeing the benefit for the cost is really good for the community. And so I would like to look into that a little bit more and see how. And I was like, there's like maybe 10, 15 different communities in this smaller setting where they're all providing, free tuition for community and technical colleges. And so I had a brief conversation with one of them, and it's like, they're like, yeah, we're less than $100,000 a year for everyone, and that's a heck of an economic development tool, in my opinion. And so have you heard about that, Rick? Do you know of any cities in Washington? These are all cities sort of in the Midwest and kind of on East Coast and the South that we're doing this. Some in California as well. But I haven't heard of any cities in Washington State.
No, I haven't heard of any cities. I've heard of Seattle's talked about the idea of city of Seattle. Of course, they're a city into of itself and have a lot of different resources. That talked about community college education and tuition. But that said, it is important to figure out and focus on trades, because there is a gap in the amount of workforce going into the trades anymore with the way our public schools have evolved in their curriculums, as well as we still have that bubble from 2008 where we lost a gap in that workforce, a generational gap in that workforce from that 2008 recession that we're still trying to recover from. So one of the things is having that conversation both at the school, the K through 12 level, as well as a community college, because there are those jump off spots, but also the makerspace and Pack Mountain Workforce. Pack Mountain Workforce is also trying to develop programs to help develop more people into the trades. They actually hosted a training at the makerspace last summer for basic construction site management. But there's also, in these training programs, there's all different types of programs that meet different types of demographics. And so, while we focus on maybe those that are second chance situations where that's very important, we got to continue and foster those. We also need to also have those opportunities for people coming out of high school or the community college level that can go into the trades and create that training workforce. So it is something too that's in our mind that we need to connect with the local trades in the area to help see if they can be advisors to this and how we can build up that workforce. But the current step now is we're just looking on that expansion capacity and trying to focus on the entrepreneurial and the advanced manufacturing with the equipment we're getting from the EDA. But all those type of programs can come together.
I think it's worth having a conversation and seeing, what those numbers would actually look like, and have a conversation with, the workforce development side, SPACC, in conjunction with the makerspace, and see if we can put together a program where Lacey can help support, our community. I think that would be, when I heard that and I started hearing about all the success stories they were having, I was like, geez, we should be able to do that here in Lacey for those numbers. And there were bigger cities too that were doing it. And the cost really wasn't that much. So it's definitely, I think, worth looking into. Does anyone else have anything?
Unions.
So what do you need from us? I mean, we're obviously.
I'm gonna look to Scott and talk about next steps, but I think before we move forward with any type of approval for funding allocation, we need to go to the full council at a work session to brief the full council. But just want to get a sense from the Finance and Economic Development Committee if this is a path well worth taking.
Yeah.
So I guess there's two paths we can take. One, we can memorialize this direction with the Finance Committee and then provide a budget amendment at a full council meeting. That'd be one route. Or if you want to have another fuller discussion with council, we could go to a work session and talk about the same topic.
I think this should go to a work session.
Yeah, whenever you start talking about this type of money, it needs to get the full approval of the council. I'm sure the council is going to be supportive, but I'd feel more comfortable having a fourth on that weighing in.
So we'll discuss the $350,000 for capital and then the $200,000 for the O&M, which is really a need for the following year because 2022 has been addressed, correct, Rick?
Correct.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
And then my presentation to the full work session, I'll put those numbers on a screen so people can see them.
Obviously SPSC or St. Martin's has some money in there, and plus the other 100,000. So we're on our way for sure. Okay. Anything else from the committee? Then with that, we've reached the end of our agenda. So without objection, I will call this committee meeting adjourned. Thanks.
You all? Scott.